Now, the latest ITV News in London.
Tonight, how and why did the Metropolitan Police keep Sarah Everard's killer in his job? The Home Secretary announces a government inquiry into that decision and a wider look at vetting and police culture. We're live at the Tory party conference with the latest. More injunctions for Insulate Britain, but will they stop the roadblocks? We'll ask one of the organisers. More flooding in London, with October set to be a record breaker for rain. And the 13-year-old who ran the London Marathon without leaving his back garden. Good evening. They say a week is a long time in politics. Well, just 2 days ago, the Prime Minister said a public inquiry into how Sarah Everard's killer was kept on by the Metropolitan Police wasn't necessary. But today, the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, announced that an inquiry would take place. The public have a right to know what the failures were, she said. The culture of policing will be investigated. Vetting and disciplinary proceedings will also be looked at. Ms Patel said she was going to redouble her efforts to make sure women and girls feel safer. Well, our political correspondent Simon Harris is at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, where this was announced. Simon.
Geraint, public confidence in the police has been badly damaged by the fallout from the Sarah Everard murder. But the government has resisted calls for a formal inquiry into how Wayne Couzens hoodwinked the Met into believing he was a fit and proper person to wear the uniform of a police officer. Today, that changed. Tory Home Secretaries traditionally use their conference speech to big up the party's policy on law and order. But Priti Patel was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The Sarah Everard murder has exposed what she called unimaginable failings in policing.
It is abhorrent that a serving police officer was able to abuse his position of power, authority and trust to commit such a horrific crime. The public have a right to know what systematic failures enabled his continued employment as a police officer.
The Home Secretary said a new inquiry would provide independent oversight into what happened. In the space of 48 hours, the government appears to have given in to growing pressure. Just 2 days ago, the Prime Minister seemed content to leave the investigation to the Independent Office for Police Conduct.
The IOPC is now doing that, and we've got to get to the bottom of it.
Wayne Couzens was an off-duty police officer who used his warrant card and handcuffs to kidnap Sarah before raping and murdering her. The new inquiry will look at his previous behaviour and missed opportunities to catch him before he became a killer.
It's really important for somebody other than the police to look into whether the vetting processes are fit for purpose, who the police recruits, the process of the recruitment and the training, but also in relation to once they've joined the police service, if there are any concerns around misogyny or sexism or racism or homophobia, that police officer is kicked out.
We think an inquiry is part of the right course of action. We think there's lots to be done and a lot should be implemented right away. We can't wait for the outcome of this. They spent 6 months since Sarah died and nothing changed.
Alex chairs the London branch of Conservative Young Women and welcomed the inquiry.
I think this past year has been particularly worrying, hearing about the murder of Sarah as well as other young women in the city in situations which I have been through where many times I thought that could have been me going back home.
The murder of Sarah Everard is set to become a watershed moment for policing in London. The Home Secretary's investigation will go beyond Couzens to look at wider issues, including workplace behaviour. This new inquiry means there are now 3 formal investigations into police failings. One by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, as we've heard. Another, a review announced yesterday by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick. The Home Office says it will draw on the IOPC's inquiry, while the Commissioner says she will work closely with the Home Office team. So it looks as if there will be some overlapping. We now await, Geraint, an announcement from the Home Office who will chair the inquiry and what its precise terms of reference will be.
OK, Simon Harris, many thanks. And the ITV News continues with more on the inquiry and the rest of the national and international stories at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Charlene.
Coming up, Priti Patel announces an inquiry into how Wayne Couzens continued to work as a police officer. He murdered Sarah Everard despite previous allegations against him. The Home Secretary says the public deserves some answers. Also ahead, the Prime Minister warns of a tough winter with a risk of big price rises, telling us there's no alternative. Plus, Facebook's apology for the 6-hour outage that took down all of its services. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Next, it is almost 5 years since the serial killer Stephen Port was sentenced to life imprisonment. Today, inquests opened into the deaths of his victims, Jack Taylor, Daniel Whitworth, Gabriel Corrie and Anthony Walgate. They were all killed by Port after he met them on a dating website. They were remembered today in court by their families, and the Met is under scrutiny there too. The East London coroner told the jury to look at the competence and adequacy of the police investigations and whether mistakes were made. Sam Holder reports.
Anthony Walgate, Gabriel Corrie, Daniel Whitworth and Jack Taylor. 4 young men, all victims of the same serial killer. 46-year-old Stephen Port targeted them using gay dating sites and apps. His weapon, lethal doses of the powerful date rape drug GHB. Port was jailed for life in 2016, now more than 7 years after his first murder, and with plenty of questions still from the families, inquests are finally being held for his victims. We know how these 4 young men died. We know who killed them. What these inquests will also examine is whether there were missed opportunities during the police investigation to stop Stephen Port, and whether some of those deaths could have been prevented. The bodies of all 4 were found within the vicinity of Port's flat in the space of 15 months. Gabriel and Daniel were found in the same churchyard by the same dog walker a few weeks apart. The police were aware of Port. They worked out he'd called an ambulance after Anthony, his first victim, was killed, but he used a fake name. He was later jailed for perverting the course of justice, but in between, he'd killed twice again. Daniel was found with a fake suicide note written by Port, which claimed Daniel had accidentally killed Gabriel, and specifically said Port wasn't to blame. The inquests heard from the families of the 4 men. The sisters of Jack Taylor, who wanted to be a police officer, said, "Our whole world's been shattered into pieces. Our family has a big hole missing, and we are all so broken without him." Daniel Whitworth's family were told by police that the chef from Gravesend had taken his own life. Daniel's grandmother today described him as her pride and joy, saying he was truly a godsend. These inquests have been a long wait for the families, with one key question: could their children's lives have been saved?
Sam, and it seems unusual for the coroner to ask the jury to consider how the police investigated these murders.
Yes, Geraint, it is pretty unusual, and the coroner did mention multiple times that that the police investigation would form a significant part of these inquests, which are set to last between 8 to 10 weeks. Now, in a very unusual move, the Metropolitan Police handed out a statement in advance of these inquests. Normally, those only come in once the conclusions have come in. And they say, "We're offering every assistance to the coroner and welcome a full examination of all the facts surrounding the tragic deaths of these 4 young men. At the time of Port's conviction, we apologise to the victims' families for how we initially responded to the deaths, and we would like to apologise again."
All right, Sam Holder, many thanks. A man has been charged with the murder of a 70-year-old woman who hasn't been seen by family or friends since August. Norma Girolami from Highgate was reported missing last month. Police have been unable to find her after she vanished without saying anything to her loved ones. 41-year-old Serkan Kaygusuz from Islington has been charged with her murder and 2 counts of theft. 6 fire engines and around 40 firefighters were called to a fire at Westminster Tube Station this morning. 100 people had to be evacuated after a large amount of smoke was seen coming from an electrical room in the basement of the station. The cause is being investigated. And the UK's oldest synagogue has been saved for now. City of London councillors have refused permission to build a 48-storey building next to the 320-year-old Bevis Marks synagogue. But a decision has yet to be made on a proposed 21-floor development nearby, which would have had an even bigger impact on natural light in the synagogue. Now, more than 100 Insulate Britain activists were served with another injunction this morning aimed at preventing their road blocking protests. The group, which wants the government to insulate all of our homes by 2030 to help cut carbon emissions, blocked the road at the Blackwall Tunnel and Wandsworth Bridge yesterday, and 38 protesters were arrested. They staged another protest outside the Royal Courts of Justice today, where the injunction order was made. And spokesman Liam Norton joins me there from there. Now, Liam, just tell me first, are these injunctions going to make any difference? Because you ignored the several that have been passed up till now.
No, it changes nothing. The Home Secretary's had the ability to bail us and imprison us for the last few weeks. This is just an excuse for her to gain more powers. She's basically trying to have her cake and eat it.
The Prime Minister's called you irresponsible crusties. I just wonder, you know, are you annoying people more than you're convincing them now? Because if that is happening, you're failing, aren't you?
Well, what we're currently seeing is the facilitation and the destruction of the British state, British communities, families in Britain. The fabric of our society has been destroyed. And to be quite frank with you, Boris Johnson will be seen as a traitor to the people of this country because he's facilitating the destruction of this country.
And a lot of people will have a lot of sympathy with those arguments, of course, Liam. And protest is one thing, but causing harm and distress to people, which is what you're doing with these roadblocks, is quite another. How are you justifying that?
Well, what Sir David King, the former Chief Scientific Advisor to the government, has said is what we do in the next 3 to 4 years will determine the future of humanity. Now, you need to examine what he means in the substance of those words. It means millions of people are going to suffer. Let's look at the Chatham House report, which said that in their latest report last week that there's a 95% chance of us going over 2 degrees C. And the consequences of 2 degrees C in a peer-reviewed papers means 1 billion people will be on the move. That's an absolute catastrophe. And the government has a legal obligation in the Climate Change Act of 2008 to keep temperatures below 2 degrees C. So what we'd like to see from the British legal system is them taking Boris Johnson to court. Let's take Priti Patel to court for treason, for their betrayal of the British people and the British state at this time in history. That's what we should be talking about.
But right now, you're going to keep... When we're seeing pictures now of how angry people get when they have to get to places. I think this lady we're looking at now had to get to see her mother in hospital. You're going to continue with this protest, for this type of protest, for the foreseeable future, are you?
Well, the government could end it immediately if they gave us a meaningful statement that they're going to start the process of protecting the British people. This would end tomorrow. We would get off the roads immediately if they gave us that statement. I'm, just as shocked as the rest of the British people that they're still having to suffer this disruption. Why don't the government just get on with the job?
OK. All right. Liam Norton, thank you very much. And I should just add that the government say that they are investing over £1 billion this year alone to support people to install energy efficiency measures. Thank you, Liam Norton. There's a full forecast to come after that rain last night led to flooding around the capital this morning. And staying in the rain, how this 13-year-old completed a 10-hour marathon in his garden. But first, the North London Hospice for Children says COVID has really stretched them financially. They took on children from other places when other hospices had to shut during the pandemic. Noah's Ark in Barnet has raised over £2 million, but they need double that to keep everything they offer to kids and their families going. Martin Stew reports.
When baby Isabella was born 8 months ago, a lack of oxygen caused damage to her brain. Symptoms so far are similar to cerebral palsy.
Can
while she needs to be fed through a straw.
Can you feel that in your tummy?
Mum and Dad Joe and Andy need support to find time to be a family.
Noah's Ark Hospice enable us to go and have some fun, actually, and the music therapy that she does there is just brilliant, and she's so responsive.
The Ark in Barnet receives some government funding, but to stay afloat it has to raise £4 million a year. It was during this session Isabella pieced together that her movements can make music.
We're living in a sort of wait-and-see world where we're not sure what she'll be able to do and what she won't be able to do. And so actually being able to see those developmental signs make us really optimistic, actually, yeah.
The Ark opened in 2019. COVID hit services and funding, meaning they can currently only support a third of the 2,500 kids who need them.
We really want to be able to fill the building and meet the needs of all of these children and families. But without the funding and without the support from our community and without recruiting additional nurses, we're unable to do that and fully utilise this incredible resource.
This year, they've helped 30 families say goodbye. But as medical science improves, carers and families have longer and longer to make memories.
In my head, hospice to me was obviously like old buildings that used to be run by nuns.
End of life thing.
End of life, yeah.
But actually, it's so much more than that. It's the fun developmental side for sick children that I didn't realise existed.
Isabella is learning and changing each day, but some things stay the same.
The thing that she always loves is cuddles, because obviously since being in intensive care, she's always loved cuddles. So yeah, she doesn't
and
like
naps.
them. And
That's
naps.
your count to find out.
Joe and Andy are hopeful Isabella will live a long life. With Noah's Ark's help, they say they're confident it'll be a full one. Martin Stew, ITV News.
More than 1 million people have received their COVID-19 booster jab, and today it was the turn of some of the Chelsea pensioners. Among those to receive their third dose of the vaccine was John Byrne. The 70-year-old said he felt good about getting his latest jab and encouraged others to do the same.
It's the time to have it now because we've had the 2 inoculations, and it's also the correct thing to do. This sort of needle and these sort of medications can't hurt you, but they can do a lot of good.
Now, wasn't it great to see the runners and the crowds returning for the London Marathon at the weekend? Well, not so much for those families who still have to shield themselves from the coronavirus. 13-year-old William Priddy from Staines has been stuck at home for 10 months while his dad receives treatment for a brain tumour. But that didn't stop Wills from taking part on Sunday. He ran the marathon in his back garden and raised more than £10,000 for brain tumour research. Well, we can talk now to Wills and his family. Sister Amelia, Mum Joanne and Dad Greg. Will first, you superhero. Tell me, how long did it take and how are you feeling now?
It took 10 hours and 15 minutes. I'm really proud of myself and I'm lucky to have the support of my family, my friends, my neighbours and my teachers at the Magna Carta School for all their support and the people on Twitter.
Well, we can see some pictures of you now, Will, of you running through in the rain, the pouring rain in your back garden. Tell me where you got the idea from for the run.
Well, my dad has a brain tumour and so I decided to raise money and make awareness for brain tumour research. And then my teacher, Mr. Gallagher from Magna Carta School, told me to do something positive, so then I got an idea of it near there.
And Dad, Greg, tell me what you think of the young man sitting to your right.
Very proud. Bit of a nutcase, you know. It started off as just a mile a day for a year, and he started to add in extra, spice it up a bit, and done a half marathon in September. And then decided he wanted to do the marathon in October. So sat him down, told him exactly what it means, to do a marathon, and he was up for it. So we backed him.
And tell us how your treatment is going.
Treatment's gone very well. I've coped with it pretty well. It's high dose chemotherapy, followed by stem cell transplants. I've got a consultation on Monday to get the results from the latest scans, so
all being well, it's all good.
Yeah, well, of course, fingers crossed. Now, we've noticed that you're sitting in front of, I think that's Tower Bridge, isn't it? And I know that Mum Joanne has been hard at work in the back garden in preparation for Will's run. I don't know if Joanne can just lean over and tell us about those monuments that she's put up in the back garden.
Do you want to tell me about the Tower Bridge? It's dropped out. Oops.
Well, Greg, why don't you explain to us what happened there?
Sorry, the earpiece fell out then.
That's okay.
No, she was working night and day. She was working night and day with the...
You wanted to give Will the feeling that he was actually running the London Marathon, so you built your own landmarks. That's right, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. She worked night and day. I think Charlie at Brain Tumour Research gave her the idea to make it a bit more realistic. So she made about 10 attractions around the course, and we took photos at each point that he got there, just to make it a little bit more realistic, like he was there.
Now, we've been in touch, Will, with the charity that you were raising money for, Brain Tumour Research, and they've described this as an extraordinary achievement by an extraordinary young man. What do you make of that?
I think it's brilliant. It was quite tough at times. I had the support of everyone, and I was really happy that I was able to finish it.
Well, Will, and all of your family there, it's been brilliant talking to you, and well done again, Will, and all the best, Greg, for the rest of the treatment.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much.
And if you want to find out more about Will's fundraising, there are details on our website. An African-American couple who escaped slavery in the United States and arrived in England in the 19th century have been honoured with a blue plaque at their former home in Hammersmith. Ellen and William Craft helped to form the London Emancipation Society, raising awareness about social justice, and were an important part of the anti-slavery movement. Now, did you sleep through that very noisy rain last night? An inch fell in an hour at St James's Park. Sally's here. Did it wake you up, Sal? You look like you've had your beauty sleep uninterrupted.
You charmer. Well, I can't actually remember. It sort of reminds me of when you put a baby to bed at night and you wake up in the morning like, did I feed that child in the night? Because we're just so confused. But I think I did wake up. But anyway, we've got some pictures of the flood waters. This is the A3, and these pictures were taken by Richard Gaisford as he's trying to get into Good Morning Britain. And then the next, on pretty nasty driving conditions, this is the A4 to the west of London. Not very pleasant at all. And then the next ones we've got are of Knightsbridge, where shops and buildings were flooded. There are also delays on the road and the tube and the overground as well. Now, the Met Office, as you said, recorded 26 millimetres at St James's Park, so that is an inch. Putney, that was in an hour. Putney overnight had 44 millimetres, and it is the 5th of October, Geraint, and we've already had 60% of our average monthly rainfall by the 5th of October. Now, climate scientists are telling us things are going to get warmer and wetter in the winters, hotter and drier in the summers, and then we are going to have to expect more extreme rainfall. So I spoke to a flood risk specialist earlier called Simon Craver, and he gave me his assessment of last night.
It's not good. It's only a couple of months since we last saw extensive flooding in London. It really shows how susceptible London is to these intense rainfall situations we're having, where a lot of water falls really quickly. And with there being so much hard standing area in London, there's nowhere for the water to soak into the ground, and the streets and shops and homes become flooded.
I never even asked, did it wake you up?
I didn't. No, it didn't. I slept right through.
You sleep so
happily.
purely. And hopefully we'll all sleep well tonight with a quieter night. Let's take a look.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Well, after all that torrential rain came the glorious sunshine this morning. There we go, look at that. And then things started to cloud over a bit. But this evening overnight, we'll see things start to clear, turning chilly. And then tomorrow, a really lovely day, certainly the morning, nice and sunny for us. And it's going to warm up over the next few days, with Thursday probably being the warmest of the bunch. If we take a look at the pressure chart, we can see what's going on. The low pressure at the bottom of that rain moves out of the way. High pressure starts to build. That front there might bring us a bit more cloud as we move into Thursday. And Friday, Friday's looking pretty good as well at the moment. Again, some cloud around, probably a bit of fog, but hopefully some sunny spells at times. The weekend also at the moment looking dry and quite pleasant, but we will keep you posted for any changes. So tonight we have got a few isolated showers outside, but not too many. Many areas staying dry. And as we go through the night, the sky's clearing right to dawn, where we're going to have quite chilly temperatures without any blanket of cloud outside. So down into single figures, particularly in the countryside. So we start tomorrow on quite a fresh note, but a bright one. Plenty of sunshine to greet us tomorrow. Lots of lovely blue skies. And then as we head through the day into the afternoon, possibly a bit more medium and high level cloud moving in, so we'll revert to sunny spells, but the temperature is much better than today, highs of 16 to 17 degrees without that wind chill, so it will feel warmer tomorrow. And if you've got plans for tomorrow night, fairly similar, some sunny spells and a bit of cloud around as well, but it should stay dry. Now moving into the outlook, Thursday a cloudier picture but brightening up after probably a bit of a murky start. Friday we've got some fog heading our way as well, but again that should lift as we go through the day, though it might be quite slow to clear, and warming up a touch with Thursday, probably the warmest day. That's it for now. I'll see you later on. Cheerio.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Finally, in Brentwood today, school kids were joined by football coaches from West Ham. It's for National Day of Climate Action and is part of a tournament for kids to compete so they can show off their football skills and their green credentials ahead of COP26 in Glasgow later this month. This is Cup 26. Antoine Allen explains.
It makes me feel sad that people don't care about the world, and because maybe they don't realise that we only have one chance and we only have one world to live in.
On Now About Climate Change.
We only have one world, and if that goes, then it's going to be done forever.
They should be more aware of it and take action before it's too late.
Today's lesson was hosted by West Ham Football Club.
And one of the big things we can do is ensuring that when we have a waste product from our homes, we get rid of it in the best possible way. Okay, who knows what that's called? What can we do with some of our waste things? Recycling, perfect.
Football fans are being encouraged to score points for their school and club by engaging in sustainability activities as a part of a new tournament called Cup 26. The children of Willowbrook School are sharing the tips they've learnt today.
Lots of children obviously do go to school, so I say try, if you're near range of your school, try walk to school, because it will help instead of polluting the area with a car.
It would be try and recycle and try and help others to realise that this planet is slowly getting badder and badder, so we must help it.
Every school in the country has a chance to compete in football's biggest climate change tournament.
So the feedback's been really fantastic. They've been really enjoying working with Planet Super League and the project with West Ham, thinking creatively about how they can be a little bit more sustainable. So it's working on what we already have in place in school.
7 London clubs are taking part in Planet Super League's Cup 26.
Taking fun family activities they can do at home, they can do at school, they can do on their way to work. They score goals for their football club, they help their football club win fixtures against competitors and hopefully win the tournament for their club at the end of it.
Cup 26 isn't just for school children. Planet Super League want everyone to sign up and play their part by joining the goal of saving the planet. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
And just before we go tonight, Adele has announced that she will be releasing new music for the first time in 6 years next Friday. The Tottenham-born superstar teased fans with this short snippet of her comeback single, Easy on Me, on social media. It comes days after the number 30 mysteriously appeared on billboards and was projected on famous landmarks around the world, thought to be a hint of a 4th studio album. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Charlene's coming up with the ITV Evening News, but from me and the rest of the London team, goodbye.